In Mexico, President Sheinbaum reconvened her cabinet to discuss the immigration situation. In Palestine, Israeli troops again violated the ceasefire in Gaza and killed a bulldozer operator in Nuseirat who was working on the recovery of the enclave. And in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the fragile calm that reigned over North Kivu ended. Heavy fighting has resumed in the capital, Goma. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, and we do so in the States. Mass deportations of migrants have begun to affect business activity in the country. According to data from the U.S. Business Immigration Coalition, in less than 4 days of persecution, the slowdown in business has already reached 50%. Its director, Rebecca Shih, said business leaders are beginning to express concern and unease that far from President Donald Trump's statements that violent individuals and drug cartel members are being targeted, essential workers without police records have also been deported, while some do not come to work for fear of deportation. She also said that the migrant workers make up 25 to 50% of essential industries in the U.S. and contribute more than $80 billion in taxes each year. Mexican President Sheinbaum reconvened her cabinet to discuss the immigration situation. The meeting was attended by the current head of the National Migration Institute, Francisco Garduño, and his forthcoming successor, Sergio Salomon. Likewise, the Secretaries of Government, Rosa Isela Rodriguez of Foreign Affairs, Juan Ramón de la Fuente of the National Defense, Ricardo Trevilla of the Navy, Raimundo Morales, and the heads of social areas were present at the encounter. The debate was held behind closed doors and no further details were given. In less than a week, Mexico has received over 4,600 people deported under Donald Trump's executive orders. And following Trump's announcement to declassify some U.S. security files and all U.S. plans that sought false flag attacks against U.S. citizens to justify intervention in Cuba was recently revisited on social media and went viral. A correspondent in Havana has all the details.
La conversación digital tiene por estos días una historia por algunos.
The digital conversation these days has a story that some people have already forgotten. Operation Northwoods. Donald Trump's recent order to declassify documents on the Kennedy assassination revised the top-secret operation declassified in 1997 that sought false flag attacks against U.S. citizens to justify intervention in Cuba. Historian Elier Ramirez says Operation Northwoods reflects what has been the essence of the aggressive U.S. policy against Cuba, which in the 1960s had as its context Operation Mongoose.
Tuvo por contexto la Operación Mangosta.
La operación de guerra encubierta más grande que diseñó Estados Unidos.
It was the largest covert war operation ever designed by the United States against another country. That operation conceived a whole series of operations of psychological and economic warfare, sabotage, that there would be an internal uprising in Cuba that would justify the United States military intervention. When that did not happen, the military high command proposed this instrument to Kennedy.
Este documento, esta operación, varios de los pretextos que se propone eran volar aviones en pleno vuelo, incluso que podían perder la vida ciudadanos.
Several of the pretexts proposed were to fly planes in mid-flight, which could even kill North American citizens, to blow up ships, to make self-provocations in the vicinity of the Guantanamo naval base. All this was to be presented as a provocation by Cuba against the United States to justify direct military intervention.
Para justificar la intervención ya militar directa.
Este experto advierte que cuando salgan a la luz muchos
This
de los
expert warns that when many of the documents relating to the assassination of President Kennedy come to light, the perversity that has marked U.S. policy against Cuba will surely be exposed even more.
Porque por los estudios, por las investigaciones, por los documentos.
The investigations, the documents that have already been declassified previously related to the assassination of Kennedy show that there was a participation of the Cuban-American mafia.
Los sectores estos de extrema derecha de origen cubano en Estados Unidos que estuvieron muy involucrados en todo el magnicidio, en toda la conspiración contra
of the extreme right-wing sectors of Cuban origin in the United States that were involved in the assassination. They did not forgive him that when the Bay of Pigs invasion took place he did not show a more decisive attitude and send the US Army and the Yankee Marines directly, or when the October crisis took place he had negotiated with the Soviets and did not give the final touch to the Cuban Revolution.
dar el toque final de gracia a la revolución cubana.
Lo cierto es que cuando el mundo estuvo al borde de una
The
impredecible...
truth is that when the world was on the brink of an unpredictable nuclear war during the October crisis, at the end of the tensions the Kennedy administration showed, perhaps for the first time and in a serious way, the possibility for both countries to talk about common issues in a climate of respect. Carlos Lechuga, then Cuba's ambassador to the UN, once told this reporter.
The U.S. Ambassador Arwood told me that the Kennedy government wanted to have an approach, an exploration to see if it was possible to start relations with Cuba. We had several meetings, conversations, and we were already at the point of making an agenda to start discussing. Kennedy went to Dallas. He told Arwood that when he came back he wanted to talk to him to see that he had talked to me, and that was when he was assassinated, and that's when the meeting ended.
Historian Elier Ramirez warns that the logic of certain sectors of power in the United States is that when they do not achieve an objective, they invent pretexts.
Que han construido muchísimos pretextos a lo largo de la historia. La Cuba.
In the case of Cuba, many pretexts have been built throughout history: the Red Threat in the Caribbean, the link with the Soviets, the support of Cuba to the liberation movements in Latin America at a certain moment, then the military presence of Cuba in Africa, then human rights, freedom of expression. The list is endless.
La libertad de expresión. Bueno, la lista es interminable. Los ataques, los llamados ataques acústicos.
The acoustic attacks, we know that it was a great farce that was deflated, and there are sectors that continue to exploit this, and therefore we could be engaged in the construction of new pretexts with the same objective.
Estar abogado a la construcción de nuevos pretextos con el mismo objetivo.
The fact is that many agree that the chilling Pentagon documents could reveal why the deep state has always feared the release of the Kennedy assassination files.
Fabiola López, teleSUR, La Habana.
And Colombian President Gustavo Petro announced a Marshall Plan to enable inhabitants to abandon illicit economies during a cabinet meeting in the northeast of the nation. The executive held an encounter in Ocaña in the northern department of Santander. There, the head of state proposed a regional deal to the community affected by the violent escalation in Catatumbo and presented the exceptional powers of the state of commotion decreed by the presidency, which will be analyzed on Tuesday by the legislature. On the meeting with the president proposed a Marshall Plan to contribute to change and combat criminality in the region. In addition, social leaders who participated at the meeting reaffirmed their commitment to peace in spite of the risk to their lives.
We, women, have to be at the forefront of peace as we are life givers. We give birth to children for our country, not for war.
Let's take our first short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Venezuela's National Electoral Council announced that April 27th is the date for the next elections to renew the country's parliament and governorships. Our colleague Madeline Garcia with the details.
The electoral power informed that in 3 months the elections to elect the deputies to the National Assembly, the regional deputies, and the 24 governors of the country will be held. However, there is an immovable rule.
All political organizations, their authorities, and their participating candidates must sign a document committing to respect and abide by all events concerning the April 27th election and the results issued by the National Electoral Council as the constitutional power of the Republic.
Como poder constitucional de la República.
No serán unas elecciones más. Se enterrará.
It will not be just another election. The extreme right will be definitively buried, which has already called for abstention.
Ellos ya dijeron, no aplica ir a elecciones. Ese es el término que aplicaron.
They already said it does not apply. That is the term they used. It does not apply to go to elections. Well, let them not go, but the people of Venezuela will go. The people of Venezuela will go. We must remind that extreme right wing that they have become their own instrument of destruction. Let us remember how many times they have gone to the file of violence. Where are those people right now? Where are they? The great majority are living comfortably outside of Venezuela with the money they stole.
La gran mayoría está viviendo cómodamente fuera de Venezuela después con la plata que se robaron.
Aquellos partidos políticos y dirigentes que hayan
Those political parties and leaders that have disregarded the past electoral process will not be able to participate in the 2 contests scheduled for this year.
Any person who has asked for sanctions, invasions against the homeland, who has even fallen into the crime of treason, which is in the penal code, will not be able to participate in the elections, that is clear, nor will the political organization that has violated these articles, which goes against all Venezuelans.
The people in the street agree that those who have disregarded democratic institutions should not participate in order to maintain peace in the country.
They should not participate because they are not with democracy. They want a civil war. That is the reality.
We have to accept the elections. We are in peace and we will continue in peace. With the elections, everything is fine because we don't want any problems.
Acción Democrática está preparada para las elecciones.
Partidos políticos de la oposición democrática.
Political parties of the Democratic opposition confirmed that they will participate in the 2 elections scheduled for the renewal of more than 5,000 public positions.
Madeline García, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
In southern Chile, the sinking of a tourist boat near Osorno left a tragic toll of 7 dead and several people missing. The boat called Rio Chulhuaco set sail on Sunday with at least 34 passengers and 2 crew members exceeding its maximum capacity of 21. The boat sank in Rio Negro, just 5 kilometers from its destination, Bahia Mansa. Authorities indicate that the overloading of passengers and the lack of life jackets were critical factors in the accident. Of the occupants, 27 were rescued, including 8 minors, while 4 bodies have been found and 3 people are still missing. The captain of the boat has been arrested and faces charges of manslaughter due to the unsafe condition of the vessel. Search efforts continue with the support of the Navy and local rescue teams. In Palestine, Israeli troops again violated the ceasefire in Gaza and killed a bulldozer operator in Nuseirat, who was working on the recovery of the enclave. Gazan authorities denounced a new violation of the Qatari agreement by the Israeli occupier, pointing to a direct airstrike on a bulldozer west of the camp as it attempted to rescue a vehicle. In addition to killing the driver, it injured several civilians present. In an earlier attack, also in Nuseirat, a child and a civilian were killed when a car pulled by animals was bombed. Meanwhile, the siege of the West Bank continues with raids and arrests, including confrontations with the Islamic resistance in the Tulkarem refugee camp. In Afghanistan, residents of Kabul are facing a sharp increase in food prices as the Afghan currency continues to lose value against the US dollar. Essential goods such as flour, oil, and rice have surged by 200 to 500 Afghanis, making it increasingly difficult for impoverished families to afford basic necessities. The Taliban-controlled National Statistics and Information Authority reported a 1.3% rise in food prices over the past month, with staples like vegetables seeing a staggering 26% increase. The United Nations has warned that approximately 22.9 million Afghans are in dire need of humanitarian assistance, exacerbated by high unemployment rates and harsh winter conditions. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the fragile calm that reigned over North Kivu ended. Heavy fighting resumed in the capital Goma. M23 rebels, supported by more than 4,000 Rwandan soldiers, took the regional capital early on Tuesday morning. Clashes began in the cities of Birere and Bujuvu, bordering Rwanda. Telecommunications remain cut off. Many areas have neither power nor water. According to medical reports released by local agencies, there are so far 17 casualties and more than 350 wounded. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi is expected to address measures to the country on the eve of the UN Security Council, which will focus on the situation in North Kivu. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join us on our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, they will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. In the United Kingdom, at least 65,000 citizens remain without power after the passage of Storm Eowyn. Authorities reported at least 2 deaths in the aftermath of the storm. They also noted that the loss of power indicates that the storm has had a significant impact on infrastructure and basic services in the region. As for casualties, 2 people, one from Ireland and one from Scotland, died due to the natural disaster. It is for this reason that officials declared the highest level of weather alert for heavy rainfall. In Serbia, thousands of students and protesters in Belgrade staged a 24-hour blockade of a major intersection, demanding accountability following the fatal collapse of a train station roof in Novi Sad last November, which killed 15 people. The protests, which have gained momentum over the past month, are fueled by allegations of government corruption related to the incident. Farmers joined the demonstration with tractors, underscoring widespread discontent with President Alexander Vucic's administration. Tensions have escalated during recent protests, including incidents where vehicles have collided with demonstrators. Student organizers continue to demand more action, including greater transparency into the investigation and the release of all documents linked to the renovation of the train station.
I think the only answer to the demands is for this government to fall. So, until the government falls, and I think Mr. Vučić is well aware of this, the conditions will not be met.
It's an attempt to calm passions and change something. I don't think it will work. Because the most important thing is that these authorities need to change completely, and not just to publish documents that until now have been hidden. Since what is important is to change what is going on, so that there is no more corruption.
The Serbian President Alexander Vučić said that the students who have been protesting achieved a great victory, as he announced a call for dialogue, which he believes can begin the process of healing in the nation.
I think the students, have achieved a great victory, and that they can build on it in many ways in the future. But it's their business and their decision. I require the most urgent and enormous reshuffle of the Serbian government, because in these difficult political times it has become clear who is ready to fight and who is not, who is ready to work and who is not, who has hidden in the rat holes and who has not. As a result, I expect more than 50% of current ministers to be replaced in a very urgent reshuffle.
Survivors and international heads of states gathered in Poland to commemorate the 80th anniversary of Auschwitz liberation. A total of 50 survivors gathered at the main memorial outside the gates of Auschwitz-Birkenau, joined by dozens of world leaders. Nazi German forces murdered some 1.1 million people at this site, which was under German occupation during the Second World War. Most of the victims were Jews murdered in gas chambers on an industrial scale, but the Germans also killed many Poles, Gypsies, Soviet prisoners of war, and homosexuals. Earlier on Monday, elderly former inmates, some wearing scarves in blue and white stripes of their death camp uniforms, laid flowers at the site and silently touched the camp's walls of death. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find more of these news on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social medias on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.